Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. Get ready for a real journey through time. Stay with me until the end, because the conclusion may surprise you. Don't forget to leave a like to support our work and share your thoughts in the comments. The Soldier's Smile, Courcelette, France, 1916. Amid the chaos of World War I, this soldier sits in a muddy trench at Courcelette, his uniform torn and his face streaked with dirt. Yet he smiles, a fragile, haunting expression of endurance that defies the horror around him. Behind those eyes lies exhaustion, fear, and perhaps a quiet acceptance of fate. The photo freezes a fleeting moment of humanity in a place where humanity seemed to vanish. It's as if his smile was a final act of courage, a silent protest against despair. The Collector of Faces, London, England, 1908. Major Horatio Gordon Robley sits solemnly before his chilling collection. Dozens of preserved Maori heads, each bearing sacred tattoos known as moko. Once a British officer and artist in the New Zealand Wars, Robley became both fascinated and haunted by Maori culture. His gaze seems torn between pride and unease, as if he knows the price of his obsession. The room breathes an eerie stillness, where artistry and atrocity intertwine. What began as anthropology now stands as a haunting reflection of colonial desire and moral dissonance. A gallery of the living turned silent. The Sound of Invention, New Jersey, USA, 1877. In this iconic photograph, Thomas Edison poses beside his phonograph, the machine that first gave humanity the power to capture and replay sound. With a simple yet revolutionary idea, he transformed vibrations into grooves on a cylinder, and those grooves back into voices once lost to the air. For the first time, memory could speak. The invention bridged the gap between time and emotion, preserving laughter, music, and words beyond their fleeting moments. Edison's phonograph was not just a device, it was the birth of recorded history. The moment silence itself learned how to remember. The Twisted Engine, Germany, early 1900s. At first glance, this wrecked locomotive seems like a surreal sculpture, its metal tendrils reaching out in chaotic beauty. Yet, it is the aftermath of a steam engine explosion in Germany. A frozen moment of destruction turned into art by accident. The warped pipes and contorted steel tell a silent story of immense power gone astray. It's as if the machine itself screamed before collapsing, leaving behind this eerie, almost otherworldly form. A haunting reminder that even human ingenuity can twist into something monstrous when it fails. Paris, France, 1885. This remarkable photograph captures the early construction of the Statue of Liberty in a Paris workshop before her journey across the Atlantic. The colossal hand, still skeletal in its wooden frame, symbolizes a nation yet to grasp its own ideals of freedom. Sculptor Frederick Auguste Bartholdi and his team worked tirelessly, turning fragments of design into a global emblem of hope. Here, liberty was not yet bronze. She was an idea, raw and unfinished, waiting to take form. It's a glimpse into the moment when one of humanity's most powerful symbols first began to breathe. The Surrealist Ball, Chateau de Ferrières, France, 1972. This haunting photograph was taken at the infamous Surrealist Ball, hosted by the Rothschild family in 1972. Guests arrived in bizarre, dreamlike costumes, masks of gold, animal heads, and symbols steeped in mystery. The event blurred the line between art and ritual, wealth and madness. Behind the glitter and luxury lay whispers of secret societies and hidden power. Every glance, every gesture in the photo feels rehearsed, as if part of a grand illusion. It's a frozen glimpse into a world both fascinating and unsettling, where reality itself wore a mask. Echoes of Rwanda. Kigali, Rwanda, 1994. This wall, smeared with handprints and footprints and dried blood, stands as a silent witness to one of humanity's darkest hours, the Rwandan genocide. Between April and July 1994, nearly 1 million lives were erased in a frenzy of hatred and fear. These marks are not just stains. They are the desperate traces of those who struggled, begged, and fought to live. The room feels frozen in time, echoing with the silent screams of the innocent. Looking at it is to feel the weight of sorrow itself. A reminder that evil can spread faster than mercy when humanity forgets its heart. The first bikini, Paris, France, 1946. This photograph marks a revolution in fashion. The debut of the world's first bikini in Paris, 1946. Designed by Louis Réard, the daring two-piece was modeled by Micheline Bernardini, a dancer who became an instant symbol of post-war liberation. Made from just a few scraps of printed fabric, the bikini shocked a world still bound by modesty, yet it captured the spirit of a new era. Bold, free, and unapologetically modern. What began as scandal would soon become a statement that confidence, not cloth, defines beauty. The MGM Roar, Hollywood, USA, 1928. This iconic photograph captures the recording of the legendary MGM lion's roar, a sound that would echo through decades of cinema. Taken in 1928, it shows technicians braving the proximity of a live lion to capture the perfect growl for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's opening logo. Behind the glamour of Hollywood lay scenes like this, raw, daring, and unforgettable. The lion, majestic and unrestrained, became the very voice of the silver screen. In that moment, history roared, announcing not just a film, but the beginning of an era where sound brought stories to life. The Imprisoned Beauty, Paris, France, 1901. This haunting image captures Mademoiselle Blanche Monnier, discovered by police after being imprisoned by her own mother for 25 years. Once a young woman full of grace, she was found emaciated, pale, and broken, confined in a dark, foul-smelling room with shuttered windows. Her only crime was falling in love with a man her family disapproved of. The photo radiates both horror and sorrow, a portrait of cruelty hidden behind the facade of refinement. Blanche's story stands as a chilling reminder that monsters are not always strangers. Sometimes they live within our own homes. The rise of bold photography. Europe and America, 1920s, 1930s. During the 1920s and 1930s, photography entered a daring new era, one that embraced freedom, sensuality, and rebellion against the constraints of the past. The world was recovering from war, modern cities were rising, and artists began to explore the human body as a symbol of liberation and beauty rather than shame. In Paris, Berlin, and New York, photographers pushed boundaries, merging art and intimacy, shadow and emotion. These images were not just provocative. They reflected a generation hungry for life, expression, and authenticity. The pulse of modernism captured on film. The Lobster Boy, Pittsburgh, USA, 1940s. Grady Stiles Jr., known to the world as the Lobster Boy, was born with a rare genetic condition that fused his fingers and toes into claw-like shapes. His family, part of a traveling sideshow, turned their difference into a spectacle. Beauty and tragedy intertwined beneath the circus lights. But life outside the tent was far darker. As he grew older, Grady's bitterness deepened, his fame curdled into cruelty, and his strength became a weapon. The boy who once amazed audiences ended his story in violence. A chilling reminder that the monsters of the stage can sometimes become real. The Hilton Sisters, Brighton, England, 1930s. Daisy and Violet Hilton, the famous conjoined twins, lived a life that oscillated between wonder and exploitation. Born in England and sold to their caretaker Mary Hilton, the sisters were displayed on stage from childhood, celebrated as marvels, yet treated as property. Behind their smiles lay years of manipulation and abuse. In 1931, they bravely sued for their freedom and won, stepping out of the spotlight that had both made and broken them. But fame is fleeting, and the world soon forgot its once beloved Siamese sisters. Their story is both tragic and tender. Two souls forever bound, seeking the simple dignity of being seen as human. Lucia Zarate, the Mexican Lilliputian, United States, 1870s Lucia Zarate, known as the world's smallest woman, captivated audiences across America in the late 19th century. Standing only 51 centimeters tall and weighing barely 2 kilograms, she was a marvel of both fragility and brilliance. Despite her delicate frame, Lucia possessed sharp wit and intelligence, charming those who met her. Yet behind the spectacle lay the heavy cost of being turned into a curiosity, a life defined by the gaze of others. Her tiny form carried a vast story of endurance, proving that wonder often hides within the smallest of beings. The Sutherland Sisters, Lockport, New York, USA, 1890s. The Sutherland Sisters were once the pride of 19th century America. 7 siblings famous for their floor-length hair that shimmered like spun gold. They toured with the Barnum and Bailey Circus, their locks becoming a symbol of beauty and mystery. What began as a family talent turned into a fortune when they launched their own hair tonic, turning their image into a national obsession. Yet fame, like their hair, eventually tangled and faded. This photo, ghostly and serene, captures more than just their beauty. It whispers of vanity, ambition, and a fleeting dream that once glittered under the gaslight. The Masked Children, Europe, 1930s. This unsettling photograph shows 2 children sitting side by side, wearing eerily lifelike masks that blur the line between play and nightmare. Taken in the 1930s, the image captures a strange chapter of early costume culture, when papier-mâché masks were crafted by hand and often looked disturbingly real. What was meant as innocent amusement now feels ghostly and surreal. Smiles frozen in uncanny perfection. Behind those painted faces, the true expressions of the children remain forever hidden, leaving us to wonder what emotions they concealed beneath the masks of their time. Field surgery, France, 1905. This rare photograph from 1905 captures a haunting scene of early surgical practice in France. A doctor stands over a patient laid out on a makeshift table, illuminated by daylight rather than sterile lamps. It was an era when medicine straddled the line between science and survival, when every operation was a gamble and every success a triumph over death itself. The image speaks to both the fragility and the bravery of those who faced pain with only rudimentary tools and steadfast courage. In this frozen moment, humanity's struggle to heal is laid bare. Alaska, USA, 1910. This haunting photograph shows the massive head of a whale washed ashore in the still waters of Alaska. Taken in 1910, it captures both the grandeur and fragility of nature. A creature once ruling the deep, now eerily still beneath a silent sky. The grooves along its jaw resemble ancient carvings, as if the ocean itself etched its farewell. There is a strange peace in the image, a melancholic beauty that lingers between life and decay. It stands as a quiet monument to the power of the sea and the fleeting majesty of all living things. The Mummies of Venzone, Italy, 1950s. In the quiet town of Venzone, Italy, locals once gathered to take photographs with the naturally mummified remains discovered beneath their church. These eerie yet strangely dignified figures, preserved by a unique fungal process, became symbols of mortality and time. In the 1950s, villagers posed beside them not in fear, but with a kind of reverence, as if honoring old friends from another century. The contrast between the living and the dead in these images is hauntingly beautiful, blurring the line between remembrance and acceptance. It's a chilling reminder that decay, too, has its own quiet grace. The Two-Faced Doll, Germany, 1920. This eerie photograph from the 1920s shows a two-faced doll, a peculiar creation of early toy design. One side bears a smiling expression, while the reflection reveals a grimacing face, as if innocence and menace coexist within the same figure. Such dolls were often made to amuse children, but their unsettling appearance has since turned them into relics of unease. The image seems to whisper of duality, the fine line between playfulness and fear, beauty and distortion. It's a haunting reminder that even in the simplest of toys, the uncanny can find a home. The Timeless Taj, Agra, India, 1860s. This early photograph of the Taj Mahal, taken in the mid-19th century, captures the monument long before it became a global icon. The marble mausoleum rises in quiet splendor beside the Yamuna River, its reflection faint but eternal. Around it, crumbling ruins and seated locals hint at the passage of empires and the endurance of beauty. In the soft haze of age, the Taj seems less like a building and more like a dream carved from light. Even then, it stood as a symbol of love and loss, untouched by time, yet haunted by it. The dawn of canned food, Europe, late 19th century. This photograph captures a display of early canned goods, symbols of a new industrial era that changed the way humanity ate and survived. By the late 1800s, brands like Nestlé and Heinz had begun mass-producing preserved food, bringing convenience and longevity to the dinner table. Rows of neatly stacked tins represented not just innovation, but hope, nourishment that could endure time, war, and distance. What began as a scientific curiosity became a revolution in everyday life. Behind every can lies a quiet story of progress, preservation, and the simple human desire to make life last a little longer. Post-mortem portrait, United Kingdom, late 1800s. In this haunting Victorian photograph, two little girls pose quietly among their toys. But only one of them is alive. The child sitting on the chair has already passed away, her body carefully arranged and supported to appear lifelike for this final family portrait. During the 19th century, such post-mortem photography was a way for grieving families to preserve the image of their loved ones one last time. The result is both tender and chilling, a frozen moment where death is disguised as sleep, and innocence lingers somewhere between memory and eternity. The first self-portrait, Philadelphia, USA, 1839. This hauntingly beautiful image, taken in 1839, is the world's first known selfie. The man in the photograph, Robert Cornelius, was an amateur chemist and photography enthusiast. Using the daguerreotype process, he set up his camera, removed the lens cap, and stood motionless for several minutes to capture his own likeness. The result is raw and almost ghostly, a human face emerging from the dawn of photography itself. In that still moment, Cornelius unknowingly began a tradition that would come to define the modern age. The timeless act of turning the lens upon ourselves. The Last Voyage of the Titanic, Atlantic Ocean, 1912. This photograph, taken just days before disaster struck, shows the RMS Titanic gliding proudly into the open sea. The pinnacle of human ambition and engineering. Dubbed unsinkable, the ship carried over 2,200 souls on its maiden voyage, a floating palace of steel and dreams. Yet beneath its elegance lurked the quiet inevitability of fate. Within a week, the Titanic would lie shattered beneath the icy Atlantic, its lights extinguished, but its legend eternal. The image stands as both triumph and tragedy, a haunting reminder that even the greatest creations of mankind are fragile before nature's will. The Man Who Refused, Hamburg, Germany, 1936. In this powerful photograph from 1936, a sea of raised arms salutes Hitler, all except one. Among the crowd, a single man stands with his arms crossed, refusing to conform. His quiet defiance speaks louder than any shout. A moment of conscience captured amid collective submission. Though history would long forget his name, his gesture endures as a symbol of moral courage. Proof that even in the darkest times, resistance can exist in silence. Surrounded by obedience, he chose humanity over fear, and in doing so, became immortal in a single frame. Farewell to Prohibition, Chicago, USA, 1933. This jubilant photograph captures the moment America raised its glasses to freedom. The end of Prohibition in 1933. After 13 dry years under the 18th Amendment, citizens flocked to bars and taverns to celebrate the return of legal alcohol. The air was thick with laughter, relief, and the clinking of beer mugs, long forbidden. Behind the joy lay a deeper story: the failure of moral law to suppress human nature. That night, across the nation, people toasted not just to drink, but to the right to choose. History, once again, was written in the foam of a freshly poured pint. The Pyramid of Helmets, New York City, USA, 1919. This striking photograph from 1919 shows a massive pyramid built entirely from captured German military helmets. A monument to victory at the end of World War I, erected in New York's Grand Central Terminal. It stood as both a symbol of triumph and a sobering reminder of the human cost of war. Thousands gathered to marvel at the eerie structure, its metallic sheen reflecting both pride and grief. The helmets, once worn by enemies, now lay stacked in silent surrender. In the midst of celebration, the pyramid seemed to whisper a deeper truth, that every victory casts a shadow. The Montparnasse derailment, Paris, France, 1895. This astonishing photograph captures the aftermath of the Montparnasse train accident in 1895, when an express locomotive overran the buffers at Gare Montparnasse and burst through the station wall. The massive engine plummeted onto the street below, nose first, in a surreal tableau that seemed almost impossible. Miraculously, most passengers survived, though one passerby outside was killed. The image became one of the most iconic in history. Part tragedy, part spectacle. A frozen moment of chaos suspended in time. It remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between progress and catastrophe. Dr. Doyen's historic operation, Paris, France, 1902. This extraordinary photograph from 1902 shows Dr. Eugène Doyen and his team performing the groundbreaking separation of conjoined twins. In an age when surgical science was still in its infancy, this operation captured the imagination of the world. The scene is both clinical and deeply human, a moment where skill, faith, and fragility met under the sterile light of progress. Dr. Doyen's meticulous precision marked a turning point in medical history, paving the way for complex surgeries that once seemed impossible. This image stands as a testament to courage, both of the doctors who dared and the lives they sought to save.